Boom, Two Planker Podcast. We're here with Mitchell Brower, and I could not be more excited. Mitchell, thank you for joining us, dude.
Stoked to be here, man.
Yeah, this one, when I asked the folks at Line, who's your best, they were like, you gotta talk to Mitchell. So yeah, I'm very excited to talk to you. We'll do the biography because I don't know if you've done it. You've never done a podcast before, correct?
Nope.
Okay, well, strap in because we're gonna be here for a little while. I know you
Okay.
got a wife and kids, so I hope you have some time to spare. But
Yep, kids are asleep and wife's chilling, so we're
beautiful.
good.
Well, why don't you start off and tell everybody where you're at right now? Where are you joining us from?
Yeah, here in Draper, Utah, at my house. Yeah.
Let's see, Draper, Utah. Now, where is that in relation to a landmark that I would know? Let's see.
It's just like right next to Salt Lake. It's considered like Salt Lake area
Yeah,
in the same
but
valley.
it's pretty far south though. You're just south of Sandy.
Yep, yep.
Yeah,
So it's pretty close, like pretty quick drive up to Little Cottonwood Canyon. So
yeah.
that's like where I spend a lot of my time.
So I've heard. Yeah. So, yeah, tell everyone where you're from. From my understanding, you're a Utah kid through and through. Is that correct?
Yep, yep. I was born here, lived here my whole life. So
Hmm.
yeah, just grew up skiing at Snowbird on the Snowbird ski team. So I was like racing for a long time and uh just a pretty awesome place to be. Like you hear about all the East Coast guys that dream about coming here, and I feel like so lucky that I just had it all along.
Yeah, man. I mean, yeah. You you guys are lucky growing up in that environment. So did you always grow up in Draper or like just like in the Salt Lake Valley? Like where did you move around Utah at all?
Not really, yeah. Just grew up in Draper and yeah, ended up buying a house here a few years ago. So yeah, just Draper. I went to a school called Alta High School. It's not related to Alta Ski Area at all, but yeah, just always been here in Draper, except for like college and stuff. But yeah.
Yeah. That's great, man. That's great. And I want to ask you about this. I don't always ask everyone about their families, but I'd like to know about your family because I know that you have a brother that also rides and you guys had a video series at one point. So tell everyone about your family a little bit.
Yeah. So my mom and dad, uh, they had five kids, and I'm the fourth in that line. So I've got three brothers and one sister, and my dad got us all skiing pretty early. So we all like grew up ski racing. All of us like ski raced until we finished high school at least. And uh yeah, it's like pretty cool to have a big family. Like we everyone except my sister still lives in pretty much in Draper. So we we have Sunday dinner every week, and we go mountain biking together and do all sorts of stuff. So it's pretty cool to all be here and still be good friends.
Yeah. That is incredibly, incredibly wholesome. I like
Yeah. Yeah.
that. That's just so great, man. So I want to. Your ski career is long, man. How old are you now?
I'm oh my gosh, I'm in 1989, so I'm 33.
33. That you're like a ancient relic in the world
Yeah.
of skiing. It's so funny. Like 33 is like I work with so many people that are in their 30s, and I'm like, damn, like you seem like you're as young as you've ever been. But it's funny because that's like for a lot of people, that's like, oh, well, I'm done skiing now, and
Yeah,
obviously
yeah.
that's not the case for you. But yeah, that is funny that that's kind of old for skiing, but not in any other aspect of life
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So true.
tell us about the early skiing. You were a racer, and
Yeah.
how long were you a racer for?
So yeah, I raced, probably started like competitive racing in like first grade or something, and yeah, I was like fully in it. And then in high school, I was able to have like athletic release time. So I like I think it was like every day I got to go like after lunch and go up to Snowbird and train. So yeah, I was like fully in it and had a pretty good time. It was like my like the end of my racing years were, the last of high school, and it was like some crazy snow years. So it was kind of a crazy year to be racing because just every race was just snowy. But yeah, I like felt like I was doing pretty well at, when I was like 17 and 18, and yeah, it was awesome. I'm a big fan of racing still. I think racing's sick.
Yeah. So what drew you away from racing?
So I was just kind of like didn't love having to like strip into a downhill suit and ski when it was like horrible weather. It was like if it was always sunny and like good conditions, then I probably would like still be ski racing. But it was just like that kind of wore me down. I didn't think, and then I was just like not quite good enough to like make it to the next level. So that was another thing where it was like, yeah, I think, and I was like super stoked on free skiing too. So it was like, yeah, I think after this, I'm gonna focus on free skiing more.
Yeah. In terms of early influences, were you I don't know the first thing about ski racing. I'll tell you that right now. But like, did you have like ski racing influences? Because it doesn't seem like you're watching like a video of like a racing
Yeah,
montage and you're like, oh, this is so sick. Like, you're probably still watching like freestyle skiing, right?
yeah, yeah. As far as like racing goes, I was like a big fan of Bodie Miller growing up. He was really cool and like just a crazy good skier and always like super entertaining to watch. And then like as a really young kid, I liked Hermann Maier. He's an Austrian beast.
Yeah.
And so my dad actually so he runs a business. He started a business a long time ago called Brower Timing, and he makes timing systems for like any ski racing team will have one for training purposes. Like it's a wireless timing system. And so like he was kind of showed me some of the cool ski racing guys to look up to. And um yeah, so it was like, yeah.
No, that's great. Yeah. And so in terms of like the freestyle stuff, who were you looking at? I think I've read some interviews where that's one of those questions I kind of know what you've said in the
Yeah, yeah.
past, but I want to know what you looking back now,
what
what you
what I
think.
remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I was like super, like I was watching Level One back then. I think in like middle school was the first time I saw like a Level One, saw Shanghai Six, and I was really stoked on all those guys. Let's see, there was like some local heroes like Blake Nyman, Stephen Thomas, my brother Kevin Brower. There was like all those dudes that were like that I'd see sometimes, and so those were big influences. Then I think like before I stopped racing, like the biggest influence was like Teddy Bear Crisis, and Atomic actually made this really cool movie called 44 Days that my brother was in. And so like him and Tim Durkee and like there's some really cool dudes in there, and they're all like landing switch and powder and like had like baggy clothes, like skiing backcountry. Like there's a full backcountry. I guess it wasn't all backcountry, but I liked watching all the backcountry stuff. It was like some of the coolest backcountry stuff I had seen at that point, and so I was like super stoked to like learn how to land switch and powder and ski switch and pow and like just be like those guys.
Yeah. That's dude, I love hearing about like people's early influences, man. It's
Yeah.
so cool. Yeah, it's just it's nice hearing where everyone started because eventually you become influences for other people, you know?
Yeah.
So it's cool hearing who you guys look up to. Um,
Yeah, and I wish I could. I mean, it's been so long. I don't. I don't watch a ton of skiing now, and so it's hard to like recall the names. But if I had a little more time to sit down, I could give you all the good names. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's like that's basically like watching cool ski movies and getting stoked to be like those guys.
Yeah. And then so 19 years old, you stop racing. Where does I forget which article I read this in, but you went on a Korean speaking mission to Los Angeles. Is that like a
Yeah.
was that a pivotal turning point in your life?
Yeah, so for those who don't know, I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. A lot of people know us as the Mormons, and that's like a kind of a rite of passage as a young member of the church is you when you turn 19 and now it's 18, but you go on a 2 year mission. You don't really have a say in where you go. You kind of say you send in your papers that you want to go do this mission and serve people and go teach about Christ and stuff, and they send you somewhere. And so yeah, mine was in Los Angeles in Koreatown speaking Korean. And so that was like, graduated high school, finished racing and everything. And then I always knew I was going to do that mission. And so I was like stoked to go and do it. And yeah, it was like, it was awesome. I like think about it all the time. I still have really good friends from my mission. And it was just it was insane, like really hard, really cool, like learned a ton.
Yeah, that is great. And if you don't mind, I'd like to take a minute just to do a cultural study. For
Yeah.
context, for context,
Yeah.
I was raised Jewish, and I always think it's funny when people beat around the bush and like they're like afraid to ask questions because it's like just ask your question. Whatever you want
Yeah.
to know, just ask it. So my question for you, first of all, is the term Mormon offensive in any way, shape, or form? Before I ask any other question.
No, no, it's like until about a couple of years ago, like the church like kind of embraced that name.
Uh-huh.
And then a few years ago, like the the president of the church was like, we want to be known as what we are. We're Christians and we believe in Christ. We want to have like people call us by our name, the Church of Jesus Christ. And so
Yeah.
no, it's not offensive.
Okay. Perfect. Because that is a term I'm used to using, and it's a term that's stuck in my vocabulary. So I'm glad I can use
Yeah.
it. What is it like growing up Mormon in Utah? Because it seems like, that's like me asking what it's like to grow up Jewish in like Brooklyn. It's like, oh, like they're everywhere. They're everywhere around you. So like and for context, like I think a lot of the people that I have on the show are like transplants to Utah. So for them,
Yeah.
it's a big culture shock when they move there and they're like, "Whoa, there's this whole community that I like pretty much know nothing about." And
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not really ever gonna like be a part of or kind of really interact with in a meaningful way. But on your side, what was it like growing up in a culture where you're completely surrounded by it?
Well, yeah, first off, I wish I knew more about the Jewish culture. Like
Sure.
your reference there, I was like, yeah, I guess maybe there's a lot of Jewish people in Brooklyn, but
Yeah.
um no, yeah, I could talk your ear off about like my culture and everything. So just stop me if I ramble on too much. But yeah, I
Sure,
like
man. Yeah.
um yeah, it's an interesting thing because like in Utah, yeah, there's a lot of Mormons around, and so you can kind of decide how much you want to like. Some people call it a bubble, and you can like be in the bubble or not. And I definitely was like full on and went to church every Sunday. Like had really good friends in the church, and all my good friends that I like skateboard with and stuff too. They were all members of the church as well. So it was like really cool to have like a cool community of cool dudes that are Mormon too. But like, if you didn't want to be a part of it, then you really didn't have to. Like, especially once like you get into like middle school, high school, like people can do whatever, like people will go whatever way they want. And so I think for me, like a thing that I value was like ski racing because there was like maybe a couple dudes that were also members of the church, like in the whole area that also skied. Like no one even skied. Like it's funny, I grew up in Draper, like Salt Lake, and like didn't know like very many people that skied. But yeah, I was saying like ski racing was cool because I was kind of like friends with all these dudes that were, like you said, just from a different culture than I was. And so I think it was like good for me to like open my mind and see like what it is about like their culture in air quotes
Yeah.
that I like and what I did like what I didn't what I wanted to stay away from. And so I think it strengthened my faith in a lot of ways and kind of like made it so I could just like mesh well with other people too, like that I didn't have to like be standoffish or weird or whatever, and just like I like being friends with whoever will be friends with me, you know.
Yeah. It's I think so I've been all over this great country at this point. I've been everywhere, seen everything for the most part, been part of a lot of just been around the block. And Salt Lake is one of the most interesting places because it has this religious community that's huge, and then just as big, it seems like, is the ski community. And so it's really weird that these two communities are living aside, like alongside one another, and in
Yeah.
many ways, in terms like especially in terms of their recreational activities, they couldn't be more different. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like the,
it's pretty funny. There's plenty of Mormons that ski, and it's like a lot of people do it, but yeah, like as far as free skiing culture, like there's like almost no overlap. Like I
yeah.
feel like I've met a few, like I have some homies that are all good dudes that I ski with that are members of the church, but like and there's not very many.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because okay, so correct me if I'm wrong, but there's no drinking or smoking, correct?
Yeah, and that's like being in the ski community, that's like just always been a thing that, it's kind of weird, like because I don't do it. Yeah, I don't drink, I don't smoke, and just like being in the social side of the free skiing community is just like funny because it's like I'm not like trying to judge anybody, but when you don't partake, like people kind of feel weird. So it's just like it's been kind of a weird thing to balance
Yeah.
throughout the years.
Well, you don't need to say it because I'll say it. There is hardly anything more annoying in the world than being sober around someone who's drunk. So I applaud you for hanging out socially in the ski scene because if you're sober and the person that you're hanging out with is drunk and getting sloppy, oh my God, it is hard to not to want to kill them. So I respect that greatly about you that you've stuck to your
And
guns over there.
yeah, and it's like, like it gets to a point, and like once it gets to a point where I'm like, oh, I feel like I'm not really talking to like my friend anymore.
Yeah,
Or like I feel like they're not gonna quite remember this or something, then I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna like go to bed or whatever.
yeah,
But
yeah.
it's like once I kind of see that it's like I'm not really talking to that person anymore, yeah, then it's not so fun anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's like that is so interesting, man. We could really talk about that all day. I think that other cultures are so interesting. But yeah, I mean like just reading your life story, it doesn't say like Mitchell Brower, Mormon, but it's like, oh, he went on a mission and then he went to BYU, and I'm just like, okay, well,
Yeah.
it doesn't take a genius to put two and two together. Like he's had a unique life, for the ski community. So I wanted to take an opportunity to ask you about that. But
Yeah.
you learned Korean at like 19 years old just for this 2 year project or this 2 year mission. So I mean, yeah. Do you want to speak about how that like transformed your life at all? I mean, that's pretty intense. That's an intense process.
Yeah, like it was pretty cool. Like at the beginning of your mission, you go to the missionary training center in Provo, and I spent 12 weeks there with all the elders, all my friends that were also going on a mission. And by the end of the 12 weeks, you could like say hi and like kind of a memorized thing about the church and like just like very basic Korean stuff, and you have a horrible accent and stuff. And it was pretty hard in LA because, you can get by speaking English if you want to. So, I tried to work hard and study my Korean every morning and try to talk to people every day. Um, and it was pretty funny because all the Korean culture is like so it's like really interesting, but they like get super stoked when you're speaking Korean and you're just this white dude. And
Yeah.
so like that was always a confidence boost because you'd just say hello and they would be like 안녕하세요, and they'd be like, oh my gosh, your Korean is so good. Like, well, I haven't said anything yet, but so that was like it was really cool. And like over the years, like just getting better and trying to communicate with people better, it was like really cool. And one of the interesting things about my mission was something that I've never experienced after is people would just kind of open up about their like deepest beliefs with you. So it's like really cool because you would be a missionary, you got the missionary tag on, and you'd say like, oh, do you believe in God? And then they would like, that's like a pretty crazy question that people wouldn't want to talk about, but since you're a missionary, they would talk about it with you, and you'd talk about their family and whatever. And just like it was cool to just be able to make such a deep connection with people right off the bat, like on the street or just like knocking on their door or something.
Yeah.
um
Yep.
so yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I think it's so funny you say that because like I've always been interested in those big questions, you know? And I've never come to any certain conclusions, you know. Obviously I was raised Jewish, but like a lot of Jews are just like they're just like, I don't know. It's a very Jewish
Yeah.
trait actually, as a matter of fact, to be like, I don't know. You just shrug your shoulders. But it's funny because in college, I don't think I've ever shared this. I've definitely never shared this in the podcast, but I haven't really shared it with anyone. But there's like religious groups on campus where like a rabbi or like a priest or somebody will like try to recruit people for the group and perhaps to the religion. And so like I would just see these people in like the student union and they would ask me and I would just sit down with them and talk like just while I'm eating my lunch because they'd go around and I'd be like, yeah, sure, like well let's just talk for an hour. And it's funny because like you said, I say this on the podcast all the time. What me and you are doing right now is not a normal everyday conversation. Like not every day do I get to sit down and just dissect someone's life for 2 hours, you know? Like it's really unique and then afterwards we walk away a little bit more bonded than we were before. But what you're doing is like the next level of that. Is like, hey, like here's the central questions to what it means to be a human being. Let's talk about those. And it's like, wow, like
Yeah.
that's getting straight to it. Like there's plenty of friends I've never had any conversation like that with, and to have it with strangers, I mean, that's a really cool experience.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Well, and it's like, well, I was gonna say it's kind of cool to be on the other side where someone's just interviewing you and they're like helping me remember things about my life and whatever. Like that's really cool, and I feel like special that you're doing that too. So yeah, definitely like so cool to do this. And yeah, like you were saying, it's cool to like, obviously not everyone would talk to you about their deepest beliefs, but like you would get to do that fairly often. And so that was one of the things I thought was pretty cool about wearing the missionary tag.
Yeah, it's and it is cool that the church they don't care where in the world they're sending kids. Like I was riding, where was I was at Snowmass riding up the gondola, and it was these kids, and like obviously as you get older you start to see 19-year-olds differently. When you're 19 you feel like you're a man, and then when you're like even like 4 years later you're like, oh, that's like a
Yeah.
kid I'm talking to right now.
Yeah.
And this kid was like, yeah, I'm going to Madagascar for 2 years, and I'm like, oh my god, like that is really something. Like that is really impressive. And yeah, that
It's
always struck me. It's really crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah, funny you mentioned Madagascar. My good friend Peter Fitz, who was like one of the dudes that would like consistently free ski with in high school and middle school and stuff. He went to Madagascar on his mission, and I was just like, whoa.
Yeah.
And yeah, my brother Kevin, he went to Ecuador on his mission. So yeah, it is kind of crazy. Like you could just get sent to the most random place, and that's where you'll be for 2 years.
Yeah. It is and I want to ask this in the most respectful way possible, but it's such a cultural thing that like I just got to ask you it because the Broadway play, The Book of Mormon, which is like essentially a comedy like making light of the whole mission experience. They go to Uganda and it's like all the stuff goes wrong. Like, what do Mormons think about that play in general? Because that is like incredibly commercially successful. It's like one of the biggest plays on Broadway. And
Yeah,
I've always wondered, like, from your guys' perspective, your thoughts on something like that.
yeah. I think like I actually haven't seen it.
Mhm.
I know a lot of people have, but I think this illustrates it well. Like when that play came out, the church like had a pamphlet that they'd hand out to the people going in that was like, if you like, you should read the real book too. Like if you like the play, you should like read the Book of Mormon. Like, and so they were like, I think Mormons like are pretty good about, you know, taking jokes if it's like not too mean-hearted, you know. So
Yeah,
I don't think like I do think it's funny that it's like pretty acceptable in the current climate we're in,
yeah,
but like it doesn't bother me that much. It's like yeah.
yeah. I think anyone that's grown up in any sort of like minority context, whether that's their religion or their background, where they're from, you know, if they grew up poor or
Yeah.
whatever, they you tend to develop thicker skin, and
Yeah,
you just let things roll off your back a little bit easier. Oh man.
totally.
The I mean the premise of the play really is quite funny. It's like the most try hard kid versus like the kid that doesn't know anything, and they get paired up and they get sent to Uganda together, and it's really I found it to be pretty funny.
But yeah,
Um,
maybe I should watch it because yeah, that's I mean, very common situation
yeah,
on your mission. You know, you get paired up with the people that are so much different than you are, and you have to
yeah,
figure out how to get along. You're with each other every single day, and
yeah, man.
yeah,
It's that's a cool experience, regardless of the context. A strong encounter with another culture at a young age is like I feel like it's so important. Like you got to do it. Just get completely out of your comfort zone and yeah, I
yeah,
guess learn to swim pretty much.
yeah, totally. And that's like Korean culture. Like I learned about it during those 2 years and like grew to love it, and I still just love it. Like I eat Korean food all the time, like watch Korean TV shows and stuff. So it's like something that's like my love for that culture is kind of stuck with me from that experience.
Yeah, they hooked you, man. They got
Yeah,
you. They got
they
you.
got me early, man.
Yeah. Um, all right. So you went to BYU, and was this after your mission?
Yep, yep. Right
Okay.
after my mission, just went straight into school. I actually went to a semester before my mission as well. And I just
Oh,
like I barely got into school and uh you know, I was right on the bubble of getting in. So I got went for a semester and then they let you kind of like defer for 2 years and then start pick up where you left off. So yeah, just went straight to BYU, studied mechanical engineering there.
and is that sorry if I'm misremembering, but you say your dad had a connection to something similar?
Yeah, so both my parents went to BYU and my dad he always jokes that he wasn't smart enough to be like an engineer or anything, but he's like a full-on like electrical engineer. Like he
Yeah.
designed his these timing systems from the ground up, and so he's like, yeah, maybe get some of my tinkering uh, prowess from him.
Yeah. And so where did skiing because I mean because you were in LA and I don't know if you were going up to Big Bear or whatever, but like where was skiing playing a role in like this period of your life?
Yeah, so I think after my mission, I was just like, all right, I'm gonna be a pro skier now. Like that was like I was like, I got my like I did what I wanted to do and like now my life can start. Like that's kind of how I felt. And so I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go to school. I didn't want to like I wanted to like be like I didn't think I'd still be skiing at this age back when I was 21. Um, and so I was like, I'm gonna like set myself up for the future, but I want to like be a pro skier too. And so I was like, I had a schedule where I could ski maybe 2 or 3 times a week, and I'd go to like Park City and Snowbird, like just whenever I could. And so that was like that's what I would do every semester is just like I'd take a lighter winter load and just like ski as much as I could.
Yeah. And just time period. What was going on in Salt Lake at the time? Was this like 4x9 days? I mean,
Yeah.
I know you're on Saga, so I know that that timeline matches up. But like, who else is riding around Utah at that time? Because there was a lot of action.
Yeah, like and I mean, I've always kind of like for a long time I was like kind of on the outside looking in, Like obviously after my mission it was funny because I hadn't even seen Refresh, which is like the most legendary level one movie. Like I didn't see that for years after.
Yeah.
And like I just go to Park City and like maybe I don't even know who I'd ski with, like some friends from BYU maybe, or just like whoever like would come with me. And like I would see like the 4x9 dudes and like the Saga dudes at Park City. And it's like back then it was like those guys owned Park City, it felt like. And so I was just like I'd kind of watch them and like do my thing. But it wasn't for, a few years until I like even like met those dudes. But yeah, I think that was like a big thing, 4x9. Saga was like just everywhere. Uh and level one was like I think After Dark was like came out, and that was like that was like the first movie after my mission that I saw, so that was like a big influence. Seeing like I think Ahmet the Dolly was like had a sick segment in there,
Yeah.
Partly Cloudy as well. So yeah.
Wow, man. Yeah, that's a really wicked time to be there, and it's I like your description of that. It felt like those guys owned Park City. I'm sure it did. I'm sure it felt like that.
Yeah, and Park City was like so much sicker back then. Like it was just like it was a crazy scene.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was definitely like a little bit nerve-wracking skiing there, like seeing like all these good guys, and they're always filming and being cool, and you're
Yeah.
just kind of like, oh man.
Yeah. Well, honestly, this I feel like this ties in well. So you had a series with your brother called The Brothers Brower, and in one of these interviews that you did, however many years ago, you said that you guys started filming each other because no one else wanted to film us. is is that how you remember things going down all these years later?
Yeah, totally. Like we didn't like, so my brother like had like a pretty sick segment in that movie 44 Days. And then after that, like nothing was really happening like for him on the filming side. And so when I got home from my mission, it was like, well, let's do something. Like, let's make something happen. And so, like, yeah, I bought a snowmobile. He already had a snowmobile, and like kind of just dove right in. And yeah, it was just kind of like, well, no one's asking us to come ski with them, so we'll just ski with each other and try to do something cool. And we definitely like had like we were like out to prove something. Like we were like, oh, people only ski in the park. Like park doesn't count. You have to like land the trick in the backcountry for that to count, or like do it in the street for that to count. And so like we kind of like both were like park skiing is just like practice, and then it only counts if you do it in like the backcountry or the street. And so we kind of like I definitely had like all these ideas that I like wanted to like show, and like looking at those edits now, it's like kind of funny because they're just like, we're just filming each other like they're not like they're fun, but they weren't like groundbreaking by any means. But we definitely had that like fire under us to like try to make that happen.
Yeah. And yeah, it's cool. And I mean, you had obviously through all your filming time, you had one edit in particular that like really helped you out, and that was your super unknown edit. And so, do you want to talk about that edit? Was that primarily filmed with your brother, or were you guys skiing with other people at the time? Like, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so that was like a lot of the footage was like all the backcountry stuff obviously is like with my brother. Um, and we had like released that like some of the stuff in like one of our edits because we were like doing those edits by that point for Atomic, and so it was like yeah we had like these edits we were making, we were releasing like two a year, and um we had done some street stuff together, and then like that year that the Superunknown video, I was like yeah I'm gonna submit one. I would like just like anybody who would, I'd like have a whole text message. I'd text anybody who would want to come like help me at a street spot. It was like because I had some like really cool dudes, like Blake Balkman was one of the dudes that would just, he was always stoked to help out. And then I had a bunch of friends that I would skate with, and sometimes they'd come and like film or like just come hang out and help dig or something. But it was kind of funny like looking back because I was like the only one skiing and like just orchestrating this shoot so that I could do a trick. And like for some reason, these friends were like cool enough to help out. And so like a lot of those shots are just a random person filming, and just like I worked so hard to like make that happen. And it's just funny because like no one else was like like directly helping me. I was like got help wherever I could.
Yeah. Wow, man.
Didn't
So
have like a crew.
yeah. So I mean, even prior, but it seems like prior to Super Unknown. So you said that Atomic had picked up the series that you and your brother were making.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. So you were already starting to receive a little bit of recognition for what you were doing prior to even being in something called Super Unknown, which is kind of
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, totally. And it was like really cool because I we made like a couple edits, and my brother helped me like get a pair of skis from Atomic and like get on their like flow program. And um yeah, and then it was like the next year we're like okay we're gonna do this and we need this to do it. And it was like oh cool, okay, yeah, let's do it. So like it was cool that Atomic like hooked it up in those early days to like make those edits happen. And my brother was also promoting his business. He had a trampoline gym with a ski jump into a foam pit and stuff called Snow Aggression. And
Yeah.
so we'd also kind of like promote Snow Aggression through the edits as well. So I think for him, because he's 5 years older than me, and he was married, and he had when did he have his first son? Like he had a son like while we were filming some of those, and it was like he needed a little reason to do it as well. So it was like promoting Snow Aggression was also kind of reason enough to like go film and stuff. So yeah, it was sweet. And I think like by the time Super Unknown happened, I had already been talking like with Saga like before like Super Unknown event happened. And so things were like starting to like happen at that point. Just like, and Super Unknown was just like what really made it happen.
Yeah. So, I mean, as the process goes, you get picked as a finalist, and then you get flown out, and then there's a big park shoot, and then and spoiler alert, you won when you went. So, yeah, you want to tell us a little bit about the shoot, and then also like kind of like how it felt to win, and then what everything that came after it. Like, so we can start at the beginning. Like, when you go out there, what's it like? Like, how cool was it? Because it seemed like it was really sick.
Well, I'll go back even a little further,
Yeah.
like to submitting my video.
Okay. Yeah.
I was like, oh man, like this is kind of embarrassing to submit a video. Like I hope it's like good enough to like I like tried really hard, but it was like I've been watching like ski movies and stuff, and it's kind of hard to like see the like to know if your stuff is good or not. Like when you there's like so much stuff out there, and so I was like, oh, I don't know if this is good. Like I'll send it in. Hopefully, it's like gets at least like an honorable mention or something. And like once they like released all the finalist edits and like people like Henrik Harlow posted on Facebook and like posted my edit. I was like, this is fire. And like I think Gus Kenworthy like posted and I was like, whoa, this is insane. Like I didn't think that like it would resonate with like it did. And so that was like insane just going into it like, oh my gosh, like people like liked my video. That's crazy. And then yeah, I don't think level one pays for people to fly out. Like I think I like, booked my ticket um and it was like that year was really cool because like we were at Snoqualmie and the ski patrol, like the resort let us stay in like the ski patrol shack or something. It had like bunk beds and like so everybody was in this like pretty small building and it was like from like the beginning, like everyone's like really cool. Like there wasn't like people weren't trying to be like cool guys too much. Like everyone was like from like Sweden and Europe and like all over. And so like everyone was just like stoked to be there. And so it was like pretty quick. It was like, yeah, this is dope. Like a bunch of guys I don't know that are skiers that are all super stoked on skiing and everyone's like really cool. Um, so the event was like pretty different than any of the other Superunknown events that they had, and kind of like anything since. Like it was just up at Snoqualmie, like, okay, what do you guys want to build? Like there was no standard park feature there. It was like all like just like a weird hip, like or like a weird like jump onto a rock or like a butter pad to rail. Like nothing was like, okay, go do your double corks. Like there was no, and so I think that really played to my advantage because I I'm like don't have the deepest bag of tricks and like I think that my advantage is I'm like a really solid skier and I can like do a straight air on anything or like do a cork seven on anything, but like I don't have like the deep tricks on a standard jump. So I think that was like for me it was like the perfect situation because I could kind of like do my thing and it was like it turned out to be pretty good. So yeah, it was pretty cool. It was like and I'll keep going here. Um
Yeah.
I was definitely like there to win, you know. Um
Sure.
like I was just like kind of felt like yeah, this is like the shot and like if I win, like it's like really cool. And so I was definitely like throwing down as hard as I could. Like there's this so it was like this jump to butter pad to a tube, like a down tube after. And like so it's like you're supposed to like go do a cool like spin up onto the butter pad, then like spin onto the rail or whatever. And I was like, I gotta disaster this thing. And so yeah, just like went up and like it was like the first like doing this the test hits were just like, oh man, this is insane. What am I getting myself into? But then I like just had to do it. So I did it. And then there was like this hip that was like a super poppy, quick jump. And like people were going over like the end, like Lauren DeMartin, LDM, he was there and he was like started jumping over the whole thing. And like, and I was like, I'm going to do a 1080. and I just like did this 10 trying to go straight over, I think, and like ended up just making it right to the end of the hip. So it was like a little bit more than a 10, like landing in the hip tranny. And I was like, no way. And I like got my grab and stuff. And so I felt like I was like fully exhausted after that week of like being scared and like just pushing myself. Um, so yeah, it was insane, and everyone was so cool. Like the vibes were like really high. Um, it was really sick.
Yeah, that's so tight. And we have, like, I'm going to tie in one of our viewer questions. So my good friend Barkley, he wants to know what the chairlift jump was like at level
Oh my
one,
gosh.
or at
Yeah.
Super Unknown, excuse me. Yeah.
Yeah, that one was like definitely like the one that I didn't win that feature, I'll say that for sure. But that one was terrifying. And I was just kind of like, yeah, I got nothing on here, but like I want to hit it at least, you know? And so some of the dudes were like going ham on that thing. And I was just like, if I can just like do a 270 off of it, I'll be stoked. But it was like terrifying. It was just like huge. And I was like, you have to do it perfectly or else you're gonna fall into another tube all the way down.
Yeah. Um, so like you said, you came there to win, and then in the video, Josh Berman, it's so funny. This I got to tell you this perspective of it. So in the video, Josh Berman has this big comical check. He goes, and the winner is Mitchell or Mitch or whatever he calls you at the time. And he hands it to you, and the check is for a whopping $1,000. And looking back, obviously our money is essentially worthless now. And so it's almost like looking back like to like the 1920s and being like, wow, like $50 a month was like a fortune. And so it's like, oh wow, I suppose that in 2014 $1,000 was quite a bit of money. Um, so my first question is, was it a lot of money at the time for you, or were you like, yeah, I've had like I've worked before. This is an okay amount of money.
No, it was like it was like cool to have that, but it's not like oh, because the year before, I think it was Magnus, and he got 5,000,
Yeah,
and I was
so
like, oh
five
man,
times the amount of money. Like literally,
yeah.
that's a
And so
way
they
bigger
like had
difference.
like went
Yeah,
down to 1,000. I was like, oh man, like
yeah,
it was like cool to just like get a check for skiing or whatever, like paid for my flight and then some,
yeah.
so it was it was kind of funny because like Berman, like awesome dude, but this was like a funny thing. He's like, yeah, so yeah, I think we'll just like use that money to get you on some trips next year. I was like, um, I think I want the check, man. Like he wanted to like kind of not to use it as a. I
Yeah.
thought that was pretty funny. Like he didn't want to give me the money, but but yeah, I got he was good on his word. He gave me the money, and I even got to film with them the next year and stuff. But I
Yeah.
thought that was pretty funny.
It is very funny. The first person that gave me some insight into that was David Lesh in the episode that we did together. And he's just
I
like,
listened to that. I
yeah,
thought that was a really interesting episode. It was sick.
yeah. That episode, extremely underrated. I'll say that. And
For
yeah,
sure.
and he gave me that insight. He's like, listen, in the world of skiing, there's people that are more popular than Josh Berman. And but hey, if you're in the business of skiing, it's a tough business to be in.
Yeah.
Making all that
And
work and
yeah.
sponsorship money when there's not really much of it supposedly. But
And
so
looking back, like with like
yeah,
the years I was like, working with Josh, um, it's like he's running a business and you know, as long as he's like doing what he says he's gonna do, like that's fine. Like when I'd go on trips and like okay, yeah, we're splitting the van. I'd be like, oh man, we're splitting the rental van and like
yeah,
splitting the Airbnb. Come on. But it's
yeah,
like he never said he was gonna pay for anything. Like, and he's like doing what he can to like make these ski movies happen. So I see it from his perspective too. And like I'm like stoked for what Josh Berman did for my ski career. Like people complain about not getting like whatever they get from Josh or from anybody, but it's like, dude, you you like threw yourself down a set of stairs because like Josh would make you famous and like make you get sponsored or something. Like it was worth it for you, otherwise you wouldn't have done it. So
Yeah.
like I see both sides of it. And so like
Oh yeah.
much love to Josh. I'm sure he's not going to listen to this podcast, but like
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean it really is interesting. Like it's tough because like I work in the world of sports TV, and sports TV at times could be like, especially when you're first getting started, it's like they almost act like they're doing you a favor by letting you work in this world. And it's like, hey,
Yeah.
listen, I appreciate working in this world. I love it. I love going to work every day. And especially at the beginning, you're like, I can't wait for this opportunity. But at the end of the day, even when you're a little grunt, you're still doing the company a favor
You're
by giving
still working for
you're
them.
still working and providing them value by showing up and working. So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, this is sick, but pay me. So,
Yeah.
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 So I
That's
definitely see both sides of it. Yeah.
totally. And it's like for skiing, it's just like if you got a problem, like there's like so many kids in line that'll take your spot. So it's like
Same thing with
be
sports
careful what you
TV.
complain about if you're a pro skier, you know?
Yes, you thank your lucky stars that someone's given the opportunity because there's someone whose parents will bankroll their whole life that and that kid doesn't care about getting paid because they just want the experience. So be thankful when you get the experience. Um, and this is just one more funny thing that I read in an interview. So, did they give you a bottle of champagne to celebrate?
Yeah. Yeah, so they gave me this like, all right, here's the bottle. And I was like, yeah, what do I do with this? And so Kai Capella was there. He's like, okay, you gotta pop the cork off. Here's how you do it.
Yeah.
And so I shook it up and popped the cork off and then just started pouring it on the ground. And I think a couple of dudes were like, like they wanted to drink it. And so like, oh, here you go. So I have like this picture of me just pouring the champagne on the ground after I won. It was
That's
pretty
awesome.
funny.
That is pretty funny. Um, yeah. So, and then after that, you get to film with Level One. You want to talk about that experience at all in the movies that you were in?
Yeah. So like, yeah, it was kind of funny, like just to give you an insight on my mindset, I was like, okay, like, oh my gosh, I won. And like he said that like I could film with them. And I was like, I still didn't think it was gonna happen. Like I was like, well, I hope it all works out for next year that I get to go film. Like that was like part of the deal, but like I was just like so I did not expect to be there. And so, and I like I said, I felt like I was on the outside looking in and like so I was just like, oh, is this gonna happen? And so yeah, that next year, like I think like get an email or something, be like, okay, we're gonna like try to do this and this or whatever. And I think pretty that year was like the big snowstorm in Boston. And so
So this is like 2015 because I remember that snowstorm.
yeah.
That was a legendary snowstorm in Boston. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was like, Boston, that's somewhere on the East Coast. I don't really know.
Yeah, it was
Um,
everywhere. Yeah.
but no, so like they invited me on this trip and it was like a street trip. And I like wanted to film like backcountry stuff, but I had like, yeah, I'll do street too, whatever. And so, yeah, we got to go on that trip to Boston. It was really cool. And I got like, I kind of like we had a bigger crew. I think there was like four skiers. And so when it was like my turn, I like really tried to do something good. And like, so that one I did like that like upside down Wally thing. It was like a wall ride to like oververt thing, like backflip out, and, like smacked my head on the first try on that one. And then on that trip, I did the big like fence gap to flat rail, like a big disaster to a flat rail. And that was like another one where I was like, oh yeah, this like looks like a pretty chill spot. Like for some reason I thought it would be like more chill if the rail was flat instead of going downstairs. And so I was like, oh yeah, like I feel good about this. And then like started doing the test hits where I jump over the fence and land next to the rail. I was like, ooh, that was a lot of impact. I don't know. It's like we've already set it up and like I got to give it a go. And so that one was like a pretty big battle of like probably still like the scariest thing I've done, like where you have to keep hitting it to try and get it. And it's just like every hit is like terrifying. But that one turned out to like, there's been just like a couple moments where I was like, that sucked, but it was like good for to make me be able to like ski for a couple more years type of a thing. Like it, people saw it and thought it was cool. And so like that kind of like established me more, I guess. But yeah,
Yeah.
some of those moments where it's like, yeah, I don't want to do that again. But I'm glad that like I got the clip.
Yeah. I do like those moments of riding with someone like this most recently happened when I was riding at Mammoth with our good friend Monty Wright, the Englishman, and he was doing this transfer from the main jump to the side. Like he was just doing a huge transfer, and he did this insane rodeo five, and then afterwards, like he just completely almost bottomed out on it, landed it first try, and he's one of the best skiers I've ever seen in person. And afterwards, he was like, "That was terrifying. I feel like my heart is gonna beat out of my chest." And those are the moments that bring you back to reality. You're like, "Oh yeah, this stuff is scary. Like
Yeah,
this isn't normal mellow stuff that these guys are doing. They're also terrified." So I do like it when
yeah.
it fills me with a slight bit of joy when I see that you guys are in fact scared to be doing some of this stuff.
Yeah, I think LJ said in an interview or something, he's like, yeah, like when I get to a spot, I assess all the risks, and if I decide I'm gonna do it, I just have to turn off my brain.
Yeah.
And it's like that's kind of what you have to do. Like once you decide to do it, you can't like think about it anymore. And but
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Oh.
there's those moments. I think every single time I hit a jump for the first time, I'm scared, especially in the backcountry. Even
Yeah.
if it's like not big or anything, I'm always like nervous to hit it like the first time. Then
Yeah.
I get a couple hits and it's like, okay, I gotta land my trick, and then it like you feel like more comfortable. But
Yeah.
that fear just hasn't gone away.
It's such a yeah. I've for sure. This is the tough part of it, recording a lot of episodes. Now my line is becoming. I've said this before, but I have said this before. That one of my favorite things about. I'm just gonna stop saying. I'm just gonna start repeating myself. One of my favorite things is like how regularly with skiing that you interact with fear. Because if you just have a regular old desk job and you're a regular old person, your encounters with fear on a daily basis are like extremely limited, and that's like the places where you grow is when you're like, wow, I'm terrified to do this. I'm gonna do it anyways. And then, you get used to doing that and while skiing, and then all of a sudden, it's less intimidating to ask for a raise. It's less intimidating to approach that girl. It's less intimidating to do
Yeah.
X, Y, and Z because you're like, well, I'm already used to being terrified. What's another thing to be afraid
Yeah.
of for a moment,
Like I
So
gotta just have
it's
some parallels into the other things in my life.
yeah,
Yeah, I definitely had thought that, in college and everything, like, well, like I can do this skiing, like I should be able to like overcome this in my social life
yeah,
or whatever.
yeah. It's one of the best side effects of skiing. Is just like, well, I'm already scared all the time, so might as well
Yeah.
just keep living in that. Last thing from filming with Level One, they said that you in this interview wherever it says that you got to build you had the opportunity to build a jump line and then you did your first dub 10 on said jump line. Is that true?
Let's see, it wasn't my first ever dub 10, but it was like, uh, yeah, so it was like this Brighton shoot. Another like really cool thing, like where it's like there was no money behind the shoot, and they were just like, yeah, we'll like go up in the cat for a day and like build what you want. But so it was like I got to go in the cat with the homie Alden, and it was like, okay, let's build a super steep like tabletop here, and then like a little step down that's like really poppy and short. So like those were like BMX jumps. They were like super poppy, like you could go really high, but like the gaps weren't big. And so and that I was like, yeah, I like these kind of jumps. Like I like jumping high, but I would get scared when I'd have to jump too far. So
Yeah,
um
send me straight in the air. Yeah.
yeah. And so yeah, that was like the jumps were like feeling good, and like yeah, I got to do like a dub 10, and that was like maybe the second one I've done. And it was like I'd never done it on hard snow, only like into powder. So I was like super hyped.
Oh man.
And yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, that's great, man. So let's see. Trying to keep the timeline
Yeah.
intact. So I mean, those are two big years for you, you know. And
Yeah.
I think in the middle of all that, if I'm correct, like you finish college, like you're like, all right, great, my career's taking off. Boom, I'm done with college. Like I'm entering the real world. Is that how it played out?
Yeah. So interesting thing about that, it was so super unknown year, and then I had two more semesters. So the super unknown was in the spring. I had to do a fall and a winter. And I like the last semester you have to do your last two semesters you have to do your capstone project where you like work with an actual company and like work with a team in your class. And like and at the beginning of fall semester, once I found out my trips, I was like, okay guys, I'm gonna work real hard in this fall semester, and then I'm gonna be gone for a month in the winter semester, and then I'll come work hard again. And like luckily my team was like really cool, and like so yeah, I went on that trip to Boston. We also went to like Canada on that same trip. So it was like long trip. That same year I was filming with the Coterie, which was like a thing Jacob Callahan like
The
filmed.
Coterie, yes, the
Yeah.
Coterie, yes.
And so I
Shout
was
out
in
to Dylan
Japan.
Manley, yeah,
Yeah, Dylan talked about it.
yes, he
Yeah.
did, yes.
And so was on a Japan trip. So I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna be gone for like a lot of this semester, but I'm gonna like when I get back, I'll like really like work hard for you guys. And like somehow they were like, okay. And so I like just kind of like made it happen. And then when I got back, yeah, I like worked hard and like kind of like did all of the mechanical part of our project, like spent, nights in the lab making our little mechanical device work. It was like a little thing that inspected oil pipelines that like went into the pipe. And I like, sat there tinkering, like making this thing work. And at the end, like they were all stoked, like, oh yeah, this thing's awesome, it works and stuff. And like the company that we were doing the project for offered me an internship that like summer to like go work for them. I was like, no way. Like I was not there for like half of the semester, and like somehow this all like worked out. And so I think for me that was like a lesson in like just trying to like make stuff, like you got to do what you want to do and like try to make it happen, even though that's not like what you're supposed to do. Like I was supposed to just like stay in school and like not go skiing, but like I was like, I think I can make both of these work, and like it worked out.
Yeah,
So yeah, what was the original question? I think I backtracked there.
we were talking about just finishing up at BYU.
Oh yeah, so yeah, I that was like the end of it. Graduated school, and um, I let's see, I had met my future at that time, my future wife,
Yeah,
during that winter semester, and so like that summer I went to Sweden because she's from Sweden. I went to meet up with her. We got engaged, and then we got married in December of 2015. So I
got it.
graduated
Yes, I
like
also want to get the timeline correct because I know I know that you Mormons are efficient with your dating.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
so when did you guys meet and when did you
yeah.
guys get engaged? Because I know it's usually a quick turnaround.
So we met in on New Year's Eve.
Oh,
Um, one of my friends, Lucky, his name's Lucky. It was this crazy random thing. He had met her while he was in Finland. He
yeah.
set us up because she was in Utah visiting her sister. And somehow we like hung out and hung out for a few days. Then yeah, that's when I was like, okay, I'm going to Japan. And just like we kind of FaceTimed and chatted for the next 6 months until like I was able to go to Sweden to go meet her. And that was like a 2 week trip in Sweden. And by the end of the 2 weeks, I think both of us are just like, okay, where's this gonna go? Like, 'cause I was like, I don't, if this isn't going anywhere, like I'm not doing this long distance stuff anymore. And we weren't really a thing yet, anyways. But after the 2 weeks, it's like, let's get married. And it was like, and she was like so cool. And she's like, yeah, I'll come to America. Like, let's get married. I was
Oh,
like,
yes.
awesome.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that was in July. And then I actually had one more semester. So I had the final semester with the fall semester after that. So I finished school, then got married like 2 days later. And
Oh
then,
my God.
okay, now it's
Yeah.
ski season and I'm married and like, this is crazy.
Yeah. I mean, for however people always rag on things they don't understand, but I can tell you with certainty, I feel like a lot of girls would like that setup. Guys just being like, "Wow, we had a great 2 weeks together. Let's get married." It's just so much easier. Skip all the other crap. Skip
Yeah.
the uncertainty. I like you, you like me. We're getting married. And look at this, you guys are still married.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, it's too funny, man. And you see that story a lot. Like, just it's funny. That is
It,
awesome. What
I
a
didn't
two
think that
years.
I'd be the guy that would do that, but
Yeah,
just like that's how it needed to happen.
yeah. No, and I guess when you know, you know. And if you're
Yeah.
looking for it, I don't know. That's just life, man. If you're looking for something in particular, you're gonna find it. And if you're looking for something bad, you're gonna find something bad. If you're looking for something good, chances are you'll find something good. So,
Yeah,
wow,
that's that's kind of another life lesson. I feel like
yeah,
of yeah, I was just kind of like holding out for what I wanted, and in life and in a girl and like, I didn't have the most successful dating life at BYU, Um, but like finally something like happened and I was like, I'm glad that I didn't like settle or anything or settle for something that I didn't quite want. And
yeah.
so I was stoked that I like knew what I wanted and like finally it happened.
All it takes is one yes. That's all you need.
Yeah.
Every other no prior to that does not matter as long as you find your yes,
Yeah,
essentially.
yeah.
Yeah. Wow. And then okay, so God, like excuse me, I try to like not I'm trying not to swear or anything just out of respect but I mean just first of all, that's incredible. What a crazy 2 years you had.
Oh
And
my gosh.
yeah, just a whole different life after those 2 years pretty much. So where does it go from there? Because that's you know like super unknown for a lot of people, that's like the thing that's most known about their career. It's like, oh wow, he had an amazing super unknown run. So after that, that was 8 years ago or whatever, 7 years ago or whatever the math is. Um, what's been going on since then?
But yeah, like it was kind of funny because, after I graduated, we got married, we had a little tiny spot we were living in, and I was like, okay, like I'm a pro skier. Like I think I'll make just enough money this year from my sponsors to like make it to the end of the season and I don't have to like get a job or anything.
Yeah.
And like it was kind of funny because I think I found myself like sleeping in sometimes and like just like I realized I didn't like just only having skiing. And I was like less motivated somehow. It was kind of weird. And so that season, like it was cool. I like got to have like level one came to Salt Lake and we filmed some street stuff. And I had a pretty bad crash when level one was here. I like it was like this crazy like rail into a dam, and then I jumped up onto a ledge and like caught my edge and like kind of just like went straight onto my side and I got knocked out. And I was like, ooh, like that was pretty scary. Like I don't know about like trying to do street skiing. That's like I don't know, at least the direction I'm going here, like trying to go big or whatever it is I was doing. Like so that happened that year, and I think I had like broken some ribs on that fall too. So like the whole season my ribs hurt. But it was kind of like I had some good like me and my brother filmed that year too. Like we had a good time and stuff, but it was just like kind of a weird year, I think. And so luckily, like at the end of that season, my friend who owned the house that I was living in and like a really good friend through college, Landon Smith, him and his brother like were like, hey, do you want to come like work with us? We're like at this medical device company and we were gonna like start this little side company to like supply machined parts and like automation fixtures to this company. And I was like, yeah, that sounds awesome. And so I kind of like had a job, and it was like kind of like starting our own business type of a thing, like maybe a little easier than that because we had a customer kind of built in. But that was like, okay, that like we bought a CNC machine. My dad let us put it in his garage in the back of his house. My parents were really cool to let me use that space and let us run our business out of there. And so then I kind of had like a flexible job, and that's what I really wanted. I wanted to have a job that would let me keep skiing, you know? And so from there it was like, okay, cool. Like I don't even need like sponsor money. Like I was never making much money skiing, like, a few $1,000s, And so I was like, okay, cool. I got this job. I can work whenever I want. And I think after that, I was like kind of more motivated again to like make whatever happen. And that's when my brother was kind of like over it. He had his family, he had his business, and I think like it was getting hard for him to like keep pushing his skiing and doing all the other things. So that's when Brothers Brower, that was last year, Brothers Brower, and I was like skiing with Jonah Williams and Jacob Callahan and like really cool dudes. And so that year we did I was like, Coteries not happening, right? Okay, like let's film together, whatever, something else. And so we did a little series called Digital Style, and we got to go to Japan. I planned this Japan trip and we got to go there again. And then we filmed in Utah. And I don't know, I was like working a lot, so I didn't feel like I was skiing that good that year. And oh man, what was the next year? I think there was a few years where I was like
Yeah.
not skiing enough, you know?
And did you have like any like primary sponsors at the time? Was that like the Atomic Saga time period?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so like Atomic was like a great sponsor. And Saga was like kind of like starting to teeter, where I was like, hey, I didn't get paid last year, like for my last year stuff, like what's going on? And like, and so it was like kind of like Saga was like starting to crumble. And so yeah, I think there was like a bunch of years where I was kind of back where it's like, yeah, I don't really have a crew to film with, and just like kind of going on Instagram, like filming on Instagram, like to release my clips on Instagram, just like, and that was pretty fun to just like go up, build a jump, post the clip the next day. And it was like kind of a cool change of pace. And so it was like a bunch of years like that. And uh, had a good time, but man, what I think I wanted to like film something again, like after a few years of just like only doing Instagram stuff. Um, so yeah, I don't know. You'll have to prod me some more. I'm trying to think of.
No, of course, and it's good because I reached out to Jake Dubé earlier today and had a little phone call with him, and so I'll give you some stuff to prompt you a little bit. So you get out, you start working. You know, your brother's working, everyone around you's working. You have a family now, and you're kind of more or less on autopilot, if that's a fair statement. It's like you're getting the flow of being an adult and balancing everything.
Yeah.
So what Jake said was he wanted me to ask you about, and this is kind of maybe couldn't putting the cart before the horse, like getting to the line thing early. But he said he thinks it's cool that you've kind of come full circle because you like at the begin towards the beginning of your career you were in some traveling circus episodes, and then you went away for a while and you rode with Atomic, and then now you're back at line. So I don't know, is that a perspective you take on your career that you've kind of come full circle and landed sort of back where you started a little bit?
Well, I was actually the traveling circus. I think I was in one or two, like, and it was like just cool because Will was like, "Hey, we're in Utah. Like, you want to come film?" I was like,
Yeah.
"Traveling circus? No way!" Like, yeah, that's insane. And I like was so stoked to get clips in there. That was like probably like man, 2017 or something. So it wasn't too long ago.
Yeah.
So maybe Jake thinks that I was like more a part of it than I was back then. But
Boo, Jake.
that was like I think I've maybe come full circle in just like the past couple of years. Like skiing's been super fun and like kind of like I think like joining line kind of rejuvenated some of my like passion for it and not to like I've been super stoked and have felt very lucky like this whole time like being able to like ski as much as I do for the past gosh 10 years and like even during like the years where I was like not nothing too much happening I was like I'm living the dream I've got a business that lets me ski I can go ski and like for me I think I just have always wanted like once I feel like I'm not progressing like that's when I'll stop um and so some years I'd be like man that last year I didn't feel like I was that good at skiing and so I'd like work harder that next year and like oh okay yeah I feel the fire again like I learned a new trick or like did something new and like that's what keeps me going and as I get older it's like kind of just like this game of like can I like do better this next year can I learn something new next
Yeah.
year and I just have to be skiing enough to where I feel like comfortable enough on my skis that it's really fun and like things keep coming
Yeah.
you know
So so there was a full circle moment. It just wasn't quite the way that it was originally
yeah
painted. Yeah.
yeah
I
sorry Jake
yes. Not everything revolves around line, Jake. But yeah, I think it's cool. I think that's a common experience for a lot of people where they kind of they feel they want to be part of skiing so bad and then they become part of it and the charm wears off and then they rediscover the charm that brought them in the first place, you know.
yeah
uh, and I think that's a really beautiful experience. And so how did you end up going from Atomic after all those years to landing with Line now? You signed with Line at like 30 something years old, correct?
yeah this was my second year with line just finished the second year so yeah I
Okay.
was like 31
Yeah.
um so yeah I think like I was definitely like feeling like the fire to like do some cool stuff in skiing a few years ago and like finally like I was like just around and like Tom Wallisch was around like in the backcountry and I'd see him out there and like Tim McChesney and like um and so they had just released a backcountry movie, and I was like, oh, I went to go see it and saw that. I was like, hey, I want to like come ski with you guys, and like, and then Strictly was like just starting to like go heavy into the backcountry, and I I heard that they were like in Logan, and so I was like kind of like I want to like make a segment, or like I want to like do something good in the backcountry, and Strictly was coming to Logan, and I think Ethan Swadberg was like, "Oh, yo," and I was like, "Hey, can I come like join you guys?" And so this story is like really insane, like, but it is relevant to like my shift in thinking. But so we were like filming like this super deep day, and like super epic, like so deep that you couldn't like ride your snowmobile in the flat. Like you couldn't stop on flat or else you get stuck type of like that's how much snow there was. And like awesome day. Like I got like a really like a switch 7 off of a cliff that I was like super stoked on. And then like Benny was like Benny Mon on Instagram. He was like hitting the hugest cliff, like probably like 60 to 80 foot, like insane, like a pretty flat landing. He like jumps off this thing into like this hot tub of snow, like comes out like, yeah, woo. And I was like, okay, like I guess you can jump off anything today. Like that's insane. So kind of at the end of the day, I like there was this cliff that I was like, this cliff is like looks doable, and for how deep the snow is, I think like I should be able to like go and do a straight air off this cliff. And so like me and Ethan like double up there, and Ethan Swadberg is up teeing off something else. And so I go hit this, I go like step this thing, kind of look over the edge. I'm like, yeah, it's pretty big, but like it's so deep, I should be fine. So like homies are down at the bottom, and I like go off this cliff. And the second I go off, I'm like, this is way bigger than I thought. And it's not even like that big, but just in my mind, because I haven't hit that many big cliffs. So I was like, this is big. I'm gonna pull a Julian car, and just like so I like went off, and kind of once I saw how big it was, I leaned back and like I'm gonna just hot tub onto my back. That's what I've seen people do that. And so I did that and just like kerplunk into the snow. And I'm like, haha, that was kind of funny, like silly. I thought I could do that. And then I couldn't, I was like under the snow and I couldn't move. Like I couldn't move my hands, and like I was buried in the snow, but my skis were sticking out. So I was like kind of upside down almost. My skis are sticking out of the snow. The rest of my body is like trapped under the snow. And I can't move my hands to like dig because I had my pull straps on. And so I'm just like stuck there, and I'm like trying to get out. And then I'm like, okay, like I'm gonna give one last effort to try and like free myself out of the snow. And I couldn't. And so then I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna like try to slow my heart rate and relax. And I know there's homies like down at the bottom, like they're gonna come get me. And then I just remember waking up like with all the homies like looking down at me like oh my gosh. And then I like slowly like came out. I was like, oh, you guys did it. And like I so I was like, and come to find out I was like under there for like 10 minutes. And it was like a near death experience. I was like, like they got to me like right in time. It was like super traumatic, I think, for them, because like for me, I was just unconscious for most of it. Like they're the ones that like had to deal with like the stress of like trying to save their homie. And like I'm like forever thankful to those dudes for just being on it. And the thing that was like, luckily Ethan was up there. Ethan was the one who got to me first and just started frantically digging. He was telling me, he's like just digging, and he's like, sorry, Mitchell. And he started like digging with his foot, like kicking snow out of the way. He's like, if I kick you in the face, like I'm sorry, but like I'm gonna get you out. And so like they dug me out, and I like came back to, and so that was like, yeah, really traumatic for everyone involved, and it was like made me rethink a lot of things. And because I was like, I've always had the approach in the backcountry that I'm not going to go into avalanche terrain really. Like I will hit a jump, and the landing is the avalanche terrain. And so a landing's like pretty short, and like you'll slide to the bottom and be buried maybe, and your friends will come dig you out. Like that's the most risk I wanted to take, or like hitting like mini golf cliffs and stuff where there's nothing above you that's gonna like come bury you. Like you've got this one little steep zone you're landing in. That was kind of like my philosophy, like how I'm gonna stay safe in the backcountry, because I'm like terrified of avalanches. I don't want to like go ski lines and stuff. And so that happening was like, oh my gosh, like I didn't even know that that could happen. It wasn't an avalanche. It was just deep snow that I like sunk to the bottom of. And so I think like I was like doing a lot of thinking of like, well, do I want to keep skiing? Like, how do I accept the risk in my life that this has? Like, what do I do? And I think for me, it was like, I don't know if I can just stop skiing. And I think I just need to like step back and like, what do I want to do in skiing? Like, I don't need to like do the craziest backcountry thing ever or whatever. But, and so I think after that, you know, after like months had passed, years, I was just kind of like, I want to do like kind of like how I would go skateboarding, like just like find weird stuff and do something creative on it. Like, so I was like, I kind of want to like maybe ski a little street, like ski park, and like just like ski alta, like ski in bounds, and like just do that. And so like I I had become more like close friends, like hanging out with Will Wesson, like those couple of years too. Like I don't know, he was just around, like we'd go biking or whatever, and like talking about our views on skiing and stuff. You know, he's 36, and I was like, oh man, I want to like do this or that or whatever, and I was like, I want to like, it would be sick if I could get online and like do traveling circus. That's like the dream. Like you go cool places, you like ski park or whatever you do in traveling circus, and it's like you don't have to do anything death defying, but it's like you just try to do something creative or cool, or like do something, test your skills creatively or like technically rather than like going bigger or whatever. So I think that was like the seed for me. And then like that next year, like Line was like, yeah, we don't have any space. And then the year after that, I was like, can you guys like, I would like be stoked to join. And Connor Clayton was like, yeah, we've got like, I think we can make it happen. So that was like, I was like sick. Cause, and I think like Saga had gone under at that point, and Atomic was like, it was like the years after COVID, you know, and I was like, I don't know what's going on. So I was like, I'm gonna switch over to Line. And I was like so stoked, like pretty instantly, like, okay, yeah, we're going on a trip to here to film this, and then the traveling circus the week after, and I was like, whoa, I have like a crew to ski with, and like there's people here, and like the Line team's like super dope. Like everyone's like super down to earth and cool, and so it was like just so it felt like such a good fit from the beginning. And like the past 2 years have been so fun. Like I've had, it was like my wife is like joked like, why didn't this happen earlier before we had kids? Because like now I have like these cool trips to go on and like friends to ski with and stuff, and cool like little edits to make. And it's like a little harder having two little ones at home, but like my wife's super supportive, and like she's stoked for me too. And so yeah, it's just been like really fun the past 2 years, and like super like thankful that Line like hooked it up and let me join.
Yeah. What a story, man. I love it when I stumble upon a story that I did not know was coming. I gotta say. Like I just ask, how'd you end up back online? And you're like, well, here's one of the best stories I've told all night.
And
What
I
did
I haven't like I don't think I've publicly told like that story before.
yeah.
Um Not because it's like it is a little bit like there's a stigma of like getting stuck in the snow, you know, and like I don't know, I just like don't like to like parade around talking about stuff. I don't know, but yeah, I feel like it's like I've wanted to tell people just to so people know the risks that we take as skiers, and that like anything can happen, and
Yeah.
like figure out how that works. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Well, I gotta say, I gotta ask because you mentioned her, and it's the first thing I thought. What did your wife think when that happened? Because like, was there anything like, all right, maybe you gotta hang up the skis. Like this is getting a little unnecessary. Yeah.
well, yeah, it was like really tough, and like she was pregnant with our first daughter, and so I think both of us were just like, oh my gosh, like what would have happened? Like I could have easily not been here, and so I think like we both talked about kind of, you know, what should I do? And I think I was ready to just be like, yeah, if you want me to stop, like I'll stop. And like I think she knows me that like this like obsession with skiing is like not going to be easily given up. And I think like it's just like a besides that thing, like it's a pretty healthy thing in my life, and it like motivates me and like all other things. And so I think she like knows that, and like she thinks it's cool, and it's like super supportive. So I think kind of the new philosophy that I had on skiing was like developed with her, and like we kind of like we feel like okay with like this type of skiing, like doing this type of stuff. So
Yeah. No, that's awesome. You guys collaborated and birthed the new vision for your career. That's
yeah.
incredible. Yeah. And wow, what an intense way to change your career. Yeah, that's I mean, what an amazing story. Yeah, that's yeah, that'll
Yeah,
do it,
it's
man. That'll do it.
it's insane.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was yeah.
And so ever since you've been online, you've just been having a blast.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Like this year we went to Japan to film a bacon ski video for their
That
new
seems like a recurring theme in your career. Is that,
yeah.
oh yeah, this stage of my career, we went to Japan, and then the next
Yeah.
stage, we went back to Japan, and now this new one, we're in Japan again.
I can never deny a trip to Japan, man.
Yeah.
It's so cool there. Um yeah, so we like did that. I got to go to Norway this year. It was kind of insane. We got so traveling circus was going to Norway, and Emmy, my wife, is from Sweden. And so Emmy's parents were like, hey, we're having a party, like a big kind of get together at the end of June. And this like traveling circus trip was in April. And so, like, well, maybe we could fly the whole family out and just spend a couple of months in Scandinavia. And so that's what we did. I like,
Excuse me.
they stayed in Sweden, and I went like rode a train to Norway and went and skied a couple of weeks. Then we met up. Then I skied a couple more weeks, and then just like hung out in Sweden for the rest of the time. And so that was pretty cool. Just a little side note, but yeah, I think like with Line, it's been super dope. Like I said, like I don't know, with just I think the type of skier that wants to ski online is like usually like maybe a little more fun or weird rather than serious. And so it's like, yeah, everyone's super dope.
Yeah. Yeah, Jake said that quote, Japan with Mitchell was the coolest shit ever. That was how he poetically recounted the trip to Japan.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. Yeah, thanks, Jake. It was pretty fun to. We were like in Tokyo, and Jake had his little furry bunny thing. He was like toting around. He fit right in.
Yeah. Yeah, my sister recently got back from Japan, and she said it was like her first encounter with like cute culture. Like she thought she
Oh yeah,
understood what cute was before, but like she did not understand what it was until she went to Japan, and they're like
yeah.
Hello Kitty and all this other crap.
Yeah, it's like just a really cool place to be, and it's like the skiing's really fun. Like the terrain, it's like whatever, but like deep snow and just like the just all the buildings and the people and the food. It's just like really cool to be
Dude, I would go there and just gain 1,000 pounds. All I want to go there to ski and just to eat and eat and eat and eat and
Yeah,
eat. I love Japanese food. Yeah,
you gotta try it someday.
I know. We're working on it. We're working on it. So, did you? So, when Traveling Circus was in Norway, I remember seeing footage of Andy compete in Jib League. Were you? Did you compete in Jib League at all? Were you
Yeah.
there? Did you go? How'd that go?
Yeah, me and Robert were driving. I was in Robert's van, and the rest of the boys were in the van behind. And Woodsy calls. Robert was like already invited to be in Jib League, and Woodsy gives him a call. He's on speakerphone. It's like, "Oh, you're with Mitchell? Well, does he want to do it too?" I was like, "Sure, man. I'm not good enough, but yeah, I'll like come ski." And Andy was like, "No, I'm not doing that. Like, I'm not gonna do that." And then when we like did the first day, like Andy starts like kind of dabbling, like hitting stuff. And then by the second day, Andy was like full, like all in. It was awesome to see.
Yeah,
And so, yeah, we like randomly got to like compete in Jib League, which was like so cool, like crazy to see everyone throw it down and like just be there.
that is. Yeah, that's sick, dude. Europe is going crazy right now.
Yeah.
It's really cool. It's really cool to see. Um, So I got a couple other odds and ends that I want to
Okay.
ask about before we get to viewer questions. Do you ride for a Korean clothing company?
Yeah, I do.
What's
Uh,
up with that? And what's the name of it?
yeah, they're called Demito.
Uh,
And after Saga went under and whatever, I was just kind of like looking for something new. And I'd seen some like Korean, there's like a few Korean outerwear companies that I'd seen and like was looking into those guys and like, "Oh, I'd be sick to ride for a Korean company." And they had like really cool different styles of clothes that didn't find here or whatever. So like finally got in contact with them, like, "Yeah, we'll send you some stuff." So yeah, I like was stoked to get their Demito stuff. And then yeah, actually this year after Japan, I went to Korea for a couple days and like met up with those guys and skied a little bit. So yeah, it's just like kind of a little bit of a full circle, like learning Korean, being able to like go to Korea and speak my bad Korean with them, and
yeah,
it was pretty cool.
yeah. Are the Korean Koreans as stoked as the Los Angeles Koreans when you say like one sentence?
I don't I not really in the same situation, I guess. Like some people are like, "Oh my gosh, yeah."
Yeah,
And then some people like maybe because I'm older or something, they just like they don't freak out or maybe just the different situations. But
yeah,
like it's like sometimes I'm like, I should just I think I learned it's best to communicate in the language that's easiest to communicate in. So if like they don't speak English, then like awesome, speak Korean. Like, but
yeah,
if because a lot of them are learning English and they want to like practice English, so it's
yeah,
like okay, yeah, and you're better at English than I am at Korean, so let's speak
yeah.
English and sprinkle some Korean in.
Yeah, you open up with Korean and they're like, "You're in Seoul, sir. I grew up in Kansas and then moved back
Yeah,
to the motherland. Like I speak English."
exactly that. Yeah,
um, cool. All right. So the Korean sponsorship is real. Here's another
yeah,
one.
yeah.
Here's another one. I don't know where who floated this out. Somebody said, and you could probably put the pieces together who this somebody was. He says he's been seeing you spend a lot of time with Tom Wallisch. Is there anything that we should know about that's in the works?
Yeah, man. It's this year was like kind of like a I had this idea to make a cool edit, like mixing park and backcountry type of a thing. And so, yeah, me and Tom and Robert Roode had brought, well, Will Wesson let me borrow one of his black plastic tubes that you've seen in videos for years, you know?
Yeah.
And man, should I tell you the whole thing? This comes out in the fall, right?
Yeah, yeah, you're good. This episode will come out in September, October. So if you
Yeah,
whatever
man.
you want to announce on here, I'm personally cool with. You keep
Yeah.
in mind what needs to be secret, because
Oh, yeah.
I will egg you on and peer pressure you into saying things you maybe shouldn't say.
I mean, it's not a secret, but we, I like tied this tube on the back of my snowmobile and took it up into the backcountry behind Alta.
Yeah,
And we like set it up in various places to like hit a rail into powder in the backcountry. And so
yeah,
got a pretty cool edit. I'm pretty stoked on the edit and like gonna be coming out soon here. So
yeah.
your eyes peeled for that one.
Dude, I forgot how exciting the fall is. The fall is like just for many different reasons, but the fall is one of the best times of year to be in the ski community, to be in America, to just
Yeah,
to be who we are. It is
exciting.
so fun, man. Back to school, you got college football, you got every single awesome video being released. You got beautiful foliage. It's just like it's a great 4 months. Um, that is very cool. Um, and then the last one, the last very targeted one before I start jumping all over the place.
Yeah.
So since you've been with Line, Jake told me that you've kind of been on like in the development on the development side of the actual skis themselves. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So like this new bacon ski, like they made this new ski and the one I'm really excited about is a 122 underfoot. And that one was like me and Tom we're just like we want this like fat powder like jumping ski that's like super noodly and stuff. So like this new like the bacon is like really sick, and then this like limited edition or whatever they're gonna do with this fatter one is like gonna just be this noodle that you'll be able to wheelie and nose butter around like so easily and land switch and powder and stuff. So it's been kind of fun to like have input to some skis and like see stuff happen and like whoa yeah.
Yeah. Sick, man. All right, so now we've got modern day Mitchell. That's like I feel like we did a good job of laying out the whole story for everyone. So now we can get into the random stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, and I don't know how familiar you are with the show. The first of the viewer questions is our recurring viewer question. Do you have a hot take that you would like to share with everyone?
Oh man, I should have prepared better for this one. I
Yeah.
feel like I do have like hot takes in skiing. I think okay, I thought of it.
Okay, boom.
If you're trying to get a clip and it's like not quite there, just hike up and do it again. Like get it the way you want it. Like I've seen like a lot of people just like, and you know, conditions aren't always the best and you're taking what you can get. But sometimes I'll see in a video, it's like, I know that you can do that better. Like I've seen you ski and I know that you can just, if you went up and did it like 3 more times, you'd come right off the end of the rail or whatever it is. And just like put in that extra couple of tries to make it
Yeah.
clean.
Said in a different way, if it's worth doing, it's worth doing well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that one. I'm glad you're able to think of it fast too. That's
Yeah.
yeah. All right, cool. So we'll jump around. There's a people love you, man. We got a lot of good.
People commented. That's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, there's quite a few. I don't have them numerated, but I do have them all listed out in front of me, and it's a fat one. So answer as in depth as you want, but keep in mind there's quite a few of them.
Okay.
So, Blonde Gabe, what is the best Utah urban area as someone who has lived in Utah his whole life?
Draper, man.
Such a cop out.
That's where I filmed like most of my super unknown videos, like in Draper and like pretty close. It's like the suburban areas.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, for the style that I was doing, it was perfect.
there you
But I
go.
don't ski that much street, so
Yeah. Fake you to switch. What's your favorite lodge to eat lunch at Alta?
uh man, I usually just eat a protein bar when I'm up there skiing. I usually don't take lunch. I just ski until I get too hungry and then I go home and eat.
Eat some real food that isn't like $1 million. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, Speaking of food, oh God, this guy's not helping me with his name. Will Verinsky, Cafe Rio or Mod?
Will. See, he's my homie that I ski with. Will and Noah up at Alta all the time. They're
Yeah,
like super hyped, super good skiers, like just always down to go ski. And so I find myself skiing with them a lot of the year. But I always rant about how much I don't like Cafe Rio anymore. It's really changed.
it's really
Quality's
not
gone
that good.
downhill.
The horchata's
Slow.
good, and their mints are good. Those spicy mints they give you at the cash register. That's
And
about
then
it.
I went to that mod pizza place and I was just disgusted. It took so long to get the food. I'm kind of I really don't like when I see a business that's really poorly run when it should be everything's set up to be so good, you know?
Yeah, darn. So I'll ask you this. I'll ask you this because I know that you Mormons love your little sweet treats. What's the best soda spot in the Salt Lake Valley?
Dude, I'm not a soda guy. I don't
Ah,
like
come
those
on. Do
spots
you like
either.
any food, dude?
I like root beer. I don't like those cookie places and like the little dirty Dr. Pepper, whatever the people get at the little candy shack.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not about those.
You have to have some sort of vice. Come on, Mitchell. What's your
Dude,
vice?
what's my advice? Man, I like let's see. I just like eating burgers.
Okay, what's the best burger spot in Utah?
I don't know about like all of Utah,
Or
but
excuse me, like
there's like
Salt Lake Valley. Yeah.
there's like Astro Burger, Crown Burger. Those are like kind of the same thing. Those are
Yeah.
pretty good.
Yeah.
Um, In-N-Out's like a nice, like cheap, quick one, you know. I guess it's not so quick anymore, but that
Horrible
one's like
French fries.
decent.
They have some of the worst French fries in the
Yeah,
entire.
the fries aren't the best.
Yeah,
It
terrible.
almost stops me from going there. It like almost stops my wife from going there too.
Yeah.
But burgers are like decent. They're not. It's whatever. But yeah,
Yeah. All right, that's
Astro
pretty good.
Burgers.
Dylan Siggers asked, "Do you eat lots of food or not very much food, and why?"
Dylan must think I eat a lot of food. I I've grown up always eating as much food as I can until like the past couple of years when I'm like, okay, I guess I don't need to eat every as much as I can anymore. But like, yeah, I some people think that I eat a lot of food, and I
Yeah.
especially when it's like a nice like meat buffet or burgers or
Yeah.
whatever. I don't know.
Anyone that grows up with a lot of siblings has that same issue where it's like, well, it's like survival of the fittest, so I'm gonna inhale my plate and then
But
try to
I don't even think there was any like it's not like there was any
scarcity.
shortage of food. I just like was a skinny kid and like always was trying to eat as much as I could and never gained any weight. So it's
Yeah.
like
Keep eating, keep the good times rolling. Yeah.
yeah.
And this is funny. I don't know why there's so many food questions. But Andy Perry said, "What is your favorite type of meat?"
Yeah, so Andy's probably so I think I like beef. Beef is like it's a go-to. Steak, just whatever. Pork belly is really good. But yeah, Andy Andy understood my food insecurity when you're on like a trip and you don't know where your next meal is coming from. That's like my food insecurity. And it really comes out on trips and I'm like kind of get like anal about like where are we gonna eat next, you guys? Because some people are like, oh yeah, we'll just like kind of figure it out. It's like, no, I need to eat like right now. Like
Yeah.
we gotta go find somewhere to eat. And so Andy at least understood where I was coming from there
Yeah.
on some traveling circus trips.
Yeah, man. It's I like those questions. I like when you guys are asking each other questions. It makes me laugh. Let's see. I got so many. What does this one mean? Perhaps you can enlighten me. Ankilla, who does a better Keef box, you or Nikki?
I don't know what that means, but yeah, Nicky Kiefer, I skied with him for a lot of years. Really stylish dude. We had some good times, but yeah, sorry, X and Killa. I can't answer that. I don't know what it means.
Yeah, I'll have to get the translation on that one later. Nick, Fernie, BC or Nelson, BC?
Never been to Nelson, so I've only skied at Fernie, so
Boom.
gonna have to go with what I've done.
Nice and easy. All right. And speaking of Fernie, Nick asked you, he said, when shooting at Fernie, what is the main difference compared to skiing at somewhere like Alta or another similar mountain?
I think Fernie was a longer lap. So like there were places that were a quick lap, but like some of the cool parts of the mountain were like if you wanted to ski that run, you had to like ski all the way to the bottom, then take like 3 lifts to get back there. Where like Alta, I mostly just ski on Wildcat. So it's like a 10-minute chair ride and I ski the same run with all the jumps over and over. And like, so it's like, I think that's the difference. But I think at Fernie, if I skied there more, I'd have like the better thing like Dylan Siggers does, like have the quick hit spots. But like, I felt like filming at Fernie was like, oh, I want to go hit that jump again, but it'll be like 2 hours before we get there again. That's like what it felt like. So
Yeah.
nice. It's Alta's nice and quick.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Wildcat, Apolsky, he asked, what is it like being the best skier on Wildcat?
It depends on the day, man. Sometimes like when Andrew Pollard's there, I'm not the best skier on Wildcat. So
Yeah, it's tough.
no, it's Wildcat's so sick and like it's crazy how many like crazy good skiers are there these days. Like all these like I don't know how old they are, but like they've come out of nowhere and like kids are doing double backflips all over the place. Like doing a backflip is nothing at Alta. Like that's what anyone if you've skied for 2 weeks and you can't do a backflip at Alta, like you're behind. That's what it seems like up there. So
Yeah,
it's like pretty crazy.
that's sick. Here's another very specific one that hopefully you could read through. Trifes, why does he grunt so often? Tell him Coach Trifes asked that.
I don't know. It's just a little tick I have, I guess. Robert Roode pointed that out when he was like hanging out with me here. Because I just like grunt when I'm like maybe like turning around to put the car in reverse or digging, like shoveling to build a jump. I just like grunt. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know why I do it, Tripes. Sorry.
Yeah.
Triefs.
I feel like it'll only get worse with age as well.
Yeah.
I don't imagine the grunts lessen as you get. Okay. This one. LB photo. 50-50 tips.
You got to keep your knees apart. It's like a bow-legged situation. So that's how you can lock into a tube is like your skis make kind of an A-frame. So it like kind of clenches onto the tube. That's the tip.
There you go. And so here is a related question. I love this interpretation of it. This is from someone named Jake, not Dubé. He says, as an avid 50-50 enthusiast, do you agree with splitting the bill 50-50 on a first date? Or do you commit to the whole thing and hope to get something out of it at the end?
Oh man, I would pay for dates if I went on a date. I paid for the whole bill. Um, but I didn't go on dates too often. I usually just hang out. So
Yeah,
it was like that's where it's like iffy. You're not gonna pay for everybody.
yeah, yeah. Mitchell's first date is a proposal.
Yeah, get it right.
Yeah, I think pay for the whole bill. If
Yeah,
you're
I'd say that's the classy move is pay
that's
for
the
the whole
classy
bill.
move.
Then when you're better friends, you guys can start splitting it up.
Yeah, then when you are comfortable confessing that you're actually poor, which it's okay to be poor, but pay for the first one, and then afterwards, then you could have that conversation like, "Hey,
Yeah.
these dates are getting a little expensive." um, okay. How does one prepare for a switch dub front, which to me sounds horrifying? Yeah.
Dude, I so Tom Wallisch and P Moore, Patrick Moore got me to, and Steve Stepp one day at Woodward got me to do a switch front flip. We all were like, okay, we got to do a switch front flip off this little jump at the top. And so we all did them. And I was like, oh, switch front flip, that's a sick trick. And then I like started doing them a little more. And then I actually went to Woodward last summer and was like learning how to rollerblade into the foam pit, like go down the huge ramp and jump into the foam pit and you can like mimic some ski tricks. And so I had just been doing like double backflips and stuff. And I'd randomly like do switch front flip and like did a couple switch double front flips. So like, hey, that kind of works. I don't think that'll be a few years from now if I ever do it. And then just up of that jump that day, I did a switch front flip and it was like, okay, cool, landed that. Then I tried like a switch dub nine that went horribly wrong. And I was like, okay, well, I just did two flips and I know I can just stay straight and do a switch double. So I just like was hyped and just did it and it happened first try. So I was like, okay, cool. It was insane.
Now it's time for three. Let's.
I guess that's how the progression goes.
Man, all right, cool. So these three next questions in a row are all kind of similarly related. So I'll read them off to you. You can take them however you want. P Ring asked, "What's the secret to the nose press?" Raf Diaz said, "Nose Manny on rails." How? And Mason Kennedy asked, "The longest press you've ever done." So you got three people all wondering very similar things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mason, I haven't done very long, just like maybe at Brighton that like double box put together. I don't know.
Yeah.
Uh, and I don't know, for nose press, you just have to work up to it, I think. That's like where because like proper nose press, you can't let your tails touch the box ever. And the
Yeah.
hardest part is getting into it. And so I think you could just start out like going on 50-50, then leaning forward. And then as you get more comfortable, you just keep working your way to make it happen. And then once you get comfortable, you can just like fully dive into it and it works.
Yeah. Wow. Um,
I'm,
cool.
I'm definitely like a work my way up to things type
Yeah.
of guy. Like if I'm hitting a spot or something, I like do a 360 first. I don't just like go straight for the crazy trick or like jump to the side of the rail a couple times, like feel it out. So I definitely work up to things.
Nice. We'll give to close us out before we ask you what's going on in the future. I'm gonna let Jake have his moment and ask and have. I'm gonna take a couple more things from our phone call. So he wants me to ask you, why does everyone call you Uncle Mitchell?
Because I'm old, I guess.
Old head. Simple as that. uh, he also wanted you to tell us about your Honda Element. He said you got quite the setup.
Yeah, I got a cool little Honda Element that cars are expensive these days, and I just like I keep driving that thing, and so I got a nice swivel seat for the passenger seat in there, so I can like put my boots on in the car and do like some laptop work in there or whatever. Just chilling out the parking lot before it opens. So yeah, got a nice little rig. It's pretty cool.
That's so tight, man. Um, Looking at the rest of the conversation I had with Jake, we've covered a lot of it actually, and we've covered it all in a good way. And he thinks the dad cam footage of you at White Pass is like the funniest thing ever. I still got to watch it. Um, yeah. So leave us off with this. We've covered a lot, and we've been going for almost 2 hours, and it has
Yeah.
it has
Holy
not felt
crap.
like 2 hours. Yeah, these 2 hours have really flown by. It's been awesome, man. So what's next for you? What's still in the cards? 32, old head, Uncle Mitchell.
33. Yeah.
33. There you go.
Yeah.
So yeah, like what's next? More kids, solo projects, your own event. What you got cooking? What would you like to still do?
I think I just like want to keep skiing. Like I was saying, I just want to like still feel like I can do the things that I think of in skiing. Um, so I think I just want to see how long it goes, like see how long my life will allow me to do it. I think like maybe another kids in the future, and things always get each kid and things get more complicated. I don't know, but definitely stoked to keep riding for line and like just make things happen. Nothing like set in stone. I just like have a goal to keep progressing, and it's kind of cool to like work with line on some ski design. Thinking in the next couple of years we should have a new blend, which would be really cool. And so um, yeah, I think I just want to keep pushing myself. Try to stay strong, stay in shape, and keep learning new things every year.
Yeah, that is so great, man. So I forgot to bring this up during the show. This would be a good opportunity to shout this out, plus some other things you want to shout out. Your wife has a really unique business. You want to shout that out really quick? Because I
Yeah.
completely forgot to ask you about it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's called OK, and it's spelled OKEJ as if it was the Swedish language. And she's a really talented designer in kind of like any aspect. And so just one day she was like, "Hey, I want to make some rugs. I want to make some rugs that will sell." And I was like, "That's kind of weird." And then she showed me kind of what she was thinking of. I was like, "Oh, yeah, this is really cool." And so she had been working um, some random like uh, design jobs and had some money, and I had some money too. So we like ordered a bunch of rugs that she designed, and kind of like went from there. And it was like perfect timing because everyone was stuck at home for COVID when we started, and people wanted to make their space nice. And so we kind of just like started this business, and she designs all the cool things, and I just like ship out orders and email people. So it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Cool. So is there anything else you'd like to shout out before I let you go? Or any other, actually, I've also been offering guests this opportunity recently. Is there any little nuggets of wisdom that you want to drop on anyone? Anything that you really feel like you wanted to say that I didn't give you the opportunity to say?
Um, no, I think I touched on it. Just like my philosophy is just like, do what you make what you want to do happen. Like, I think you can easily just like, there's a pathway kind of set up for you. Like whether it's at school or whatever. I think my friend Lucky I mentioned, who introduced me to my wife, he was like influential, and he was like doing in his major, he just like made his own major at school because he wanted to do a certain thing. And they were like, "Oh, okay." And um, so I think if you just have something you want to do, just like you'll be surprised if you try to make it happen, that things fall into place, and like you can make stuff happen and live your life how you wanted to live it.
Yeah. Nice. All right. Great. Give the shout outs, give the plugs, and then we're going to get you out of here because we just hit the 2 hour mark on my time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Shout out just to Line and all the homies that I ski with. I wish I could recall all my friends quicker. So if I didn't mention your name, like I I'm sorry and I love you and stuff. But yeah, I'm super stoked on my wife and the way she supports me through everything. My parents are awesome and they've supported my skiing for my whole life and um, got me into it early and supported my racing career and helped me get through college. So yeah, definitely super thankful for everything my parents have done. And yeah,
Incredible. Thank you for being on, man. Where can people see your stuff? What's your at?
yeah, my Instagram is at Mitchell Brower. I think that's like
Boom.
the only thing that you can really contact me there. So yeah,
Yeah, it's been real, man. Thank you so much for coming on. That was awesome.
thanks, Ethan. That was crazy that we just talked for 2 hours. Thanks for listening.
Yeah.